Hello everyone. Right, so in this video we're just going to have a quick look at how to use HTML and CSS to create a basic one-column layout. So this hideous design here, this is what we're going to be creating, and you can see that we have some lorem ipsum text in there as well. So I'm going to be working in Notepad++ and previewing it in Chrome. So anyway, here we go. I've got a new blank page in Notepad++, and all I'm going to do is save it as my first page with the unimaginative name page1.html. And I'll need a second page, which I'm going to save as my style sheet. And I'm just going to call that one styles.css. Okay, so basically the way it's going to work is our HTML page will have all our content, and our style sheet will have all the formatting information. Now to begin with, we should start off with an HTML tag, because everything in here is going to be HTML. And just remember that most HTML tags will need to be closed with that /. I'm also going to be indenting every time I put tags within another tag. So here we're going to have our head of our page, and below that we will have the body, which is where everything goes that you can see on the page. Okay, so in the head of the page, the page title will go, and that's the information that will appear on the actual tab in our browser. So I'm just going to call this HTML revision, and title needs to be closed off. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to link these two files together. So we need to actually connect our content, our HTML, with our style sheet. So I'm going to use the link tag for that. Now that's not a link like a hyperlink where you click on something to go to another page. This is a tag that actually links two files together. And there are some parameters we need to put in here. So the first thing is, I guess, we need to say what's the relationship, and it is going to be a style sheet that we're linking to. And the type of file, it's text, and it is a CSS file. And the last parameter is the hypertext reference. In other words, where is this file in relation to us? And because it's in the same folder, I don't need to type any folder names. I just can type the name of the file itself. Now this is a self-closing tag, so I can literally just put a / and close the tag at the end. So that should link our two pages together. Now with the way we can test this, of course, right now, if I went to test my page, I go to the Run menu and say Launch in Chrome, and up comes our plain white background, because by default the body tag has a white background, and you can see there's my page title up in the tab. Now to test if our two pages have actually been linked, let's redefine that body tag. So instead of having a white background, it can have a blue background or something similar. So I'm going to come into styles here, and to redefine an HTML tag, what we do is we just type the name of the tag. So in this case it's the body, and we use our curly braces there to do that. Now the background color, I literally just start typing, and the good thing is about a lot of these text editors is they will actually help you out with some of these attributes. There's my background color, and a colon, and then I need to choose a hexadecimal color code. So just to help me out here, I'm just going to use good old Google to find a color picker, and I wanted some form of blue. That will do. There we go, that blue there will do. So I'm going to copy my 42A1F4 color code. So that is 42 parts red, A1 parts green, and F4 parts blue. So I'll save my style sheet, and now if I just return to my web page, if I refresh that, there we go, we've got our nasty blue background. Okay, moving along, the layout to our page. Now let's return to our layout quickly. When you're doing a layout, each rectangular area is going to be a div tag. So in this case here, I'm just going to scribble on this with a pen. You can see this large rectangle going around the outside. That will be our container. That is going to contain everything in our site. Then we're going to have another rectangle here, which is our header. We then have the main content, and then we have our little footer at the bottom. So I'm going to create div tags for each of those. So the main one, the outside one, is our container. So I'm going to give it a class of container. Now a class is a set of rules that we can apply to a tag. And so I'll just close that div tag down the bottom. Now you notice I've indented it because that's inside the body. Now also my header, you can see here, that is inside my container, so I'm going to need to put my header in here as well. So there's my div, I'll give it a class of header. And I'll just give it some space. The next one is going to be the main content. And there'll be quite a bit of stuff in there, I imagine. And last but not least, we have our footer, so class equals footer. There we go. Right, so we have our different div tags all arranged. So what I'm going to do is just go into my style sheet now, and I want to redefine those tags. Now the problem is, because I use the div tag, div HTML tag for each of them, I can't just redefine div because that will apply to all of them. So what I need to do is I actually need to set those rules, those classes. So the first one was container. Now you notice it has a full stop in front of it. That's because it's going to be a class. So I'll put my curly braces and we'll redefine the rules. So I'm going to put a background color of white, which is all Fs. And I'm going to give it a minimum height of, well, I'll say 800 pixels, just so we can see it. And I'll give it a width of around about 1,000 pixels. Okay, so if we just save that now, and let's just go back to our website and test that, and our container has appeared. Beautiful. Now you notice it's not in the middle of the page, so what we need to do is we need to move that across. Now to center it, it's not just as simple as aligning it to the middle. What we need to do is we actually need to set the margin, which is this area off to the right and the area off to the left. We need to set those as being equal, because if the left and the right margins are equal, this white box will be in the middle of the page. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get our browser to calculate it for me. So I'm going to say margin left, I'm going to set it to auto, so the browser will calculate it for me. And if I do that with the right one as well, this will happen. Boom. And it sits nicely in the middle of our browser window. Okay, now what else do we need to do with this? Now that looks pretty neat. Let's get on to our header. So there we are, dot header. And I think again we just had, I'll give this a fixed height of maybe 200 pixels and a width of 1,000, and we will give it a background color of some form of red. So let's just go find that color picker and find some red up here. There we go. That color code will do, nice and bright. Don't forget the hashtag because it's a hexadecimal color code. And let's go back and test that page now. And there's our header. And moving through our different tags, we've got the content area. Oh, sorry, no, we called it main content, didn't we? Main content. And we'll do much the same thing. I'm not going to bother setting a height because that can, oh actually I'll do a minimum height. And we'll just say the minimum at least 400 pixels. And we'll make the width again, it's 1,000 pixels. And I'm going to leave the background color blank because it's white. So we'll just leave it that for the time being. We may come back a little bit more later. And finally our footer, which again I'll set a height of, make this one 100 pixels and a width of 1,000. And the background color can actually be the same as the header. So let's have a quick look at what this does to our layout. And you can see there that's gone a bit funky. And that would just be because obviously this minimum height here of our main content is 400. If we add up these numbers, they don't actually add up to 800, which was the minimum height of my container. So I might just set my minimum height back to 700 and hopefully those numbers work a bit better. There we go. Right, there's a really basic layout. Now, we'll go ahead and put some content in there. So, back in my HTML, here we are in our main content. I'm going to put a heading. So, If you remember, there are 6 different heading tags from H1 all the way down to H6. H1's the biggest, so I am a heading. So this will be distressingly big if we come in here. There it is there. Sitting nicely to the left, and not the prettiest font in the world, so we might have to redefine that. So let's redefine that H1 tag. So in our style sheet, I'm going to be redefining an HTML tag. I just have to type in the name of the tag, H1, curly braces, and then I can come through my different attributes here. So in this case here, I'm going to change the font family because I don't want that Times New Roman by default. I'm just going to put it as maybe Arial as my first one, and I'd always recommend that you have multiple fonts. So like I'll go with Microsoft's Calibri, and then I'll just default to whatever sans serif is in the computer. Now it's important you do have a whole family of fonts here, because if the browser, the user doesn't have this first font installed, it will then click over to the next one. If they don't have that installed, they'll go to the next one, and so on. And if you only put one font there and they don't have it, it will go to whatever their default font is, and that can change the look and feel of your website quite dramatically. So there we go. Now you notice as well our text is right up against the edge, which doesn't look so good. So we're going to need to add some padding inside here. So I'll find my main content area, and I'm just going to add a little bit of padding on the left. Now the trouble here is if I add, say, 20 pixels of padding, watch what happens. Oh, absolutely nothing. That was clever, because we don't have enough content. What's actually happening here is this width of this element is now actually 1000 plus 20. So I need just to change that down to 980, and that will take care of any issues once we put more content in there. And I might actually, just when I think about it, because we will have some more in a second, put some right padding in there as well, which means we've now added 40 pixels, so this needs to drop down to 960 to give us a combined width of 1000 pixels. And the last thing we'll do in this video is we're just going to add some default text. So I'm just going to throw a paragraph tag in here and just duck away to the Lorem Ipsum website. So you can see it's called lipsum.com, and this just generates a lot of sort of Latin style writing. So if I just generate that, you'll see here it all is. And the good thing about this is it means we can put information into our designs that looks a bit like text, but it doesn't distract the reader who then wants to sit there and read it. So I just paste that into here, and I think it's probably worth breaking that up into a couple of paragraphs. So I might just close the paragraph there and reopen it there. So you notice that I've just added P for paragraph, and I've closed it there, reopened a new paragraph, and closed it there. Now if I save that, we come back into our web page now, you'll see we've got our 2 paragraphs of text. Now again, it's defaulted back to Times New Roman, so it's not terribly pretty. So what we're going to do is go to our style sheet, and we're just going to reformat that paragraph tag. So again, I'm going to do a very similar thing here. I'm going to set that font family to Arial, Calibri, and sans serif. Feel free to change those fonts if you want. I'm also going to change the font size. I'll see. Let's have a look what, say, 14 point looks like. Might be too big. Oh, we'll go with that for now. It's nice and easy to read for my old eyes. But you can play around with some of that stuff as well. Play around with your line height and all that kind of stuff, and just see what you can do to make your paragraph look more impressive. But we'll stop at that point there. So what we'll recap very quickly is how to link an HTML file and a CSS file, and then how to do a layout using div tags, and also, as well as how to do in some formatting using style sheets.